welcome everybody who's attending as a participant, and welcome to Nat and Nora, who are today our panelists. I would like to start this video by reminding everybody that there is access to all the replays of previous videos via links which are sent to your inbox, but some of the links do go to your spam, so please check your spam folders to make sure that you have the links, and if not, drop an email at womensbouldering@gmail.com. And I would also like to thank you to Patagonia for making these sessions possible, for making the whole virtual program possible, and the festival this year physically in Fontainebleau. Our next session is going to be next week. It's going to be a live yoga session with Tiffany Soy from Climbflow. And in the meantime, today we have Nat Bell from Belgium and Nora Born from Germany, who are both professional route setters, and they will chat today to give us an insight into their work and experience as route setters and as female route setters. So Nat is now an owner of her own gym, but she's been a route setter for many, many years, route setting internationally, commercially, and for comps. And Nora is a freelance route setter in Germany, and she travels around the country setting in various gyms. They will both be able to tell you a little bit more about themselves, just to give you a background on their history of climbing and route setting. And at the end of the session, so Nora and Nat both collected some questions online before this session via their Instagram profile. So they're basically going to answer some of the questions that already came in. And then we're going to have time for questions from participants live. There is a button for Q&A at the bottom. If you pop your question in there, I will pick it up at the end and hand it over to Nat and Nora. So I'm going to mute myself now, and girls, ladies, crushers, go. I'm going to disappear. How do I go?
There she went. Thanks for shortly introducing us.
Yeah.
Should I start, or do you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So as Saf already said, I'm Nora. A freelance route setter from Germany. Well, half German, half Colombian, but grew up in Germany. And yeah, I travel around the country setting boulders and lead routes, and commercial and competition as well. And I started climbing when I was like 14 years old-ish, and got hooked immediately, never stopped since. And route setting I started like 6 years ago, and I've been self-employed for the last 2.5 years. Before I was like employed in different gyms, but now I'm only working self-employed and yeah, traveling around for route setting.
Amazing. Yeah, so I started climbing pretty late actually. I was around 21, 22. I came from a background in gymnastics, so it came naturally to me climbing. I didn't start bouldering. I first started sport climbing actually, and then I came on to bouldering, and then I since became addicted to bouldering. I think is my main climbing. I started setting really slowly. I just started getting interested as a beginner. I set for free for like many years, just for fun, just to be creative. And I think I became professional, I would say around 5-6 years ago, where I started gaining, I'd say, the confidence to ask to be paid for setting. And since then I became both commercial and comp setting. So, and now I'm, yeah, I have a gym now, so it's perfect. I get to just set in my own gym commercially, and then I do competitions for Belgium, the national team, and if friends who own gyms have competitions, I go help out there as well.
And Nat, so, what is the sound that we are hearing behind you? Where are you?
So, you know where I am.
And I really want you to say this.
I'm in a cupboard, a big cupboard, where we wash holds. Yeah. And behind me, if I open the door, is the climbing gym. Because I'm really good at planning, and
where people are currently enjoying your climbs that you just set.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I'm actually resting my hand on a cleaning machine. That's as professional as we get.
Is cleaning holds a big part of your job? Because I don't know if people know about that.
Yes, yeah. Cleaning holes is part of the job, sadly. Yeah, I actually like cleaning holes, but then you have less time for setting.
Yeah. So are you gonna guys take it on with the questions that you collected from your Instagrams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we didn't take all the questions because some of them were a little bit, we had too many. So off topic, maybe.
Yeah. Well, just take the ones that you think are the most relevant, and then I'm sure there's going to be more from participants at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's start with a really interesting question that was written to me on Instagram. What means a professional route setter to a gym? To get there, at first, I think we have to talk about what a professional route setter is.
What defines, when are you a professional setter? So when can you call yourself a professional setter? Should I?
Yeah.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're both like, oh no, you reply. Just go for it, guys.
I think, like Nora and I spoke earlier today, I think when there's a demand for you, like when gym owners or other setters ask you back to the gym, and this is happening often, I think then you know that you've got something and that you have something you can provide for in return or money, like to be paid.
Is there any like formal education that you get to be a route setter, or is it something that you start through experience and then it progresses organically to being paid?
I guess Belgium and Germany are maybe different.
Yeah.
How is it in Germany? Are you
not yet, unfortunately, in Germany? You just start setting for free mostly in smaller gyms, and then when you're confident enough, just as like you started and I started as well, when you're confident enough and people request that you set there, then you start like getting more and more money for it. And I'd say like a professional route setter is somebody who, well, doesn't necessarily have to live of it, but would be able to live of it, because like enough people also think that they're professional enough to pay them enough money and to invite them again and make a sustainable living out of the job.
At the same time, I think in the UK at the moment, there is an initiative that created some sort of route setting courses, but I think it's the first country that does it. I don't know how it is in the States, but I think in Europe, that's the first country. So at least in Europe, I think if people want to get into the route setting trade, that might be like the last years to do it in an organic way, right? Do you think there will be a move toward like professionalization of training for being a route setter?
Actually, a little secret, but it's actually something we're working on here in Belgium. It's called the BFIC. It's going to be a non-profitable organization. So now Jan and I are actually writing the book. It's like an introduction to route setting, which will have all the safety, kind of all the boring stuff, like how far your ladder should be.
Jan is your business and life partner.
Yes, life, business, everything partner. And we're writing this now. It's in the first stages, and this should be then acknowledged amongst all the climbing gyms in Belgium through the federations, and then through this there can be given climbing courses for commercial settings. So then there will be it'll be a network. So all the climbing gyms in Belgium can be like, okay, we need a professional climbing a setter. these people have this course, so then they have somewhat a standard, somewhat a basis knowledge of settings, so they know what tools, the general, and then there'll be some courses every so often, but it's just the beginning of this. But this has not happened. There's no real certificate other than becoming a national setter. So you go from volunteer to national setter because there's no real middle step. Now I think Jan and I were the first there maybe two more first real freelance setters. I remember like 5 years ago. It was like weird asking for money to set. It's like, oh, don't you just do this for like free because it's fun? It's like, yeah, no, we want paid because we need to eat.
Yeah, for sure. And so would you say that there are route setters that work only at one gym in one gym for like a contract, and then route setters like, or like a, you know, a regular salary, and then route setters like you guys who are freelance, or is everybody freelance? How does it look like in Germany, Nora?
There's actually a lot of route setters who are employed by only one gym, like especially the chief setters. Like almost every gym has at least one person who's employed as like a chief setter, and then different other setters. But I think it's hard to make a living of only setting in one gym. Like most, even the chief setters I know do either like some other work at the same gym, or are also freelancers and then travel around while they're not setting at like their home gym. I think to like there, it's pretty hard to make a living out of that.
So, sorry, I keep interrupting you and like taking you away from the questions that you collected, but I just get so many questions in my head. Like you're saying that it's actually really hard to make a living as a route setter, like as a head route setter, or even it seems to be quite hard to make a living as a freelance route setter. So what was it in the profession that made you want to do it as your job? And would you say it was a good choice? Are you content?
I'm totally content. I love the job. It's like, I mean, it's a really creative job. It's physically hard for sure. It's a really hard job, like no glorifying this. Because I think a lot of people think that you're just hanging in a gym and then maybe like put up some routes, and it's not what it looks like. It's an amazing job, but it's also really, really hard. But I
physically
really
hard, or
like,
tiring.
Yeah. It's really tiring, like carrying around all the boxes with the holes and the letters, and like being on the mat, like walking on the mat the whole day.
Very bad for your back, for sure.
Yeah. So like I definitely don't want to like glorify the job or make it like into something that it is not, but I really love the creative part of it, to like be able to create movement that maybe hasn't been there before, or connect movement, and kind of creating something like an experience for other people.
And Nat, how would you say about that for you? Are you like, how was this idea for you that, oh, I'm gonna go professional with this, and why?
I've always had a good balance of I will never set like 5 days in a row unless it's for a competition. Then yeah, it's that I can do that. But to do full-time route setting, like Nora said, it's really physically hard as well. Also, if you want to keep a high or good climbing level yourself and train on top of that, it's really injury prone and really, really like you have a heavy labor job. So I always like the balance of having 2 free days setting, and then 2 free days giving training or working in the gym in another way. So I think most setters who also work in a climbing gym, it's good that they have maybe some setting work and then some alternative work of maybe giving training or something like this. So I think it's really hard to be a full-time route setter. Also, I don't know how people can do it 5 days.
Are there people who do it 5 days in a row?
I don't know that many here who do it 5 days in a row, maybe like 3 days like us.
Yeah, because it's like super, like it's like doing, I don't know, ballet or something. People like can't do it every day without resting.
It's just like renovation work. That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I don't know why ballet came to me, because
yeah,
maybe
because you like ballet.
The shoes are pretty
like
similar.
so.
Yeah.
For
no, I thought the commitment level, you know.
yeah. For competitions, it's different. Like it's really hard days, like maybe 5-6 days sometimes, or 4, and that is really hard because it's high level, so you have to also try these really hard boulders. So when I'm commercial setting, I try to work on my on-site setting. So that means I'm not really testing the boulders as I make them, and I just put them on, and then I try to have then a climbing session with all those boulders, and then it's a little bit somewhat healthier. And I also ask for help putting up big volumes. I don't try to overdo it, because sometimes you do stupid things that are heavy and then you start to overload your body. I try to set in a safe way and efficient way, and this helps my energy a lot with setting.
And I know you're incredibly strong, so if you're saying that you're trying not to overload yourself, it means that the job must be really, really strong. Right. Yeah. Give us an Instagram question, please. What questions did you get, Nat?
Oh, we got some questions. Also, what are the values of route setting to a climbing gym? I guess, Nora, we were going to say that one next, right? So yeah. How valuable are setters to climbing gyms? I think that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I guess you can't have a good climbing gym without good setting, and you can't have setters without a climbing gym, so we need each other. And I'm on both sides, so as a setter and a gym owner, coming first from route setter to gym owner, I understand a lot more now about the gym and financial situations. But for me, I find route setting should be on top in the financial plan. It's the most important thing. It's your first thing that you do when you go climbing, is you try the routes. You get a first impression from these routes, and if your first impression or interpretation is bad, then you've lost a customer. So I still get angry that climbing gyms don't consider route setting as a professional job, and they still want the volunteers, and they still want to just work with let's just set for free climbing abonnement or whatever.
But would you say, like, as climbing gets more and more popular and there are more people who come to the gyms who are maybe not experienced climbers, what is the value of climbing on routes that are set by experienced climbers for somebody who's a new climber? Because I can imagine somebody might say, oh, you know, they're just a beginner, like they've climbed only a month or a year, and so we can just put some holes in the wall and let them pull on them. Why would that not work?
I think, like, for beginners especially, it's really important to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because they may not be able to tell why, but like if you do a movement and then the foot's not there where you expect it, it feels weird, it feels odd. They maybe don't know why, like how the body works, or like they don't understand the movement itself or like the physics behind it. But especially for those people who just want to climb there, have fun, feel good in their own bodies, it has to be tight. Like it has to be right there where they need it, like especially the footwork and everything. For the people who maybe are competition climbers, or
we're losing you a little bit.
And I think, yeah, am I back? Yeah, my connection is not the best. I think, like, for the people who climb on higher levels, they can't really expect like to always have everything in a gym. Like, especially when you're like a competition climber, you can't like go to one gym only and expect to have a good training there. But then you have other facilities like a moon board, a kilter board, or something else. You can like define your own boulders. But especially for the people who come in there and have maybe been climbing for a year or less, these are the paying customers. And I think it's like especially important to set good boulders for them. They might not know why.
I think like if you look at your key figures in the gym, so the most popular level is from around 5C to around 6B plus. So for me, these levels are the most climbed and they're the most important to get right. And the people who begin, okay, their first impression, it is what it is. They don't know any better, right? So it could be a terrible boulder and maybe they think this is what bouldering is, but they stay and then they start to develop tastes and then they will catch on. Oh, this isn't actually a good climbing gym. This is way better. Or they will start to understand movements and understand what quality is. It just takes a few, if not so long. I have people that begin and after 1 month, I see they're addicted and I see they start to judge the boulders and they start to define a taste. And that's why I find also in setting, I don't really cater for the really strong climbers because if I'm honest, they don't make us money. Like these strong climbers, they want their free shoes from the sponsors. They just want to go climb all the hard boulders everywhere. Why do I need to put in some effort just for 5 or 6 strong guys who want to do some hard boulders? I focus more on the medium to lower levels, and I put in as much effort, if not more, into the lower levels than I do the higher levels. And this is really, really hard to find a route setter who can do this too. Like we have setters coming here and they just set power, power, power hard. I'm like, yeah, but beginners, they also need movement. They need to experience in slowly steps, you know, like you're not going to put a mono in like a 6A. They need to have a bigger pocket so they can understand what the movement is. So we're teaching these beginners how to transition into a better climber in a nice, fun way, and in a way where you really enjoy the boulder, where you want to, it leaves an imprint on you, you know, like, oh, this movement, and they want to, it's like a puzzle. And yeah, so for me, what I find as a gym owner, which is hard to find, is an all-round route setter who really wants to push to teach or create climbers in a way that instead they just want to build something for them. So
and how much of the work that you do in the gym is like influenced by your climbing outside? Like, is it important for a route setter to be an outdoor climber, or can a route setter be somebody who only climbs indoors? Like, how do you see that?
Well, funnily enough, I set once a kind of a boulder for a competition, and they were like, "Oh, this is old school, like outside climbing." I was like, "Oh God." Okay, so there is actually sometimes people don't like outdoor boulders. So I actually am really weird about this, and it annoys Jan actually, because he sets in grades when we're setting in the gym. And I just can't compare indoor to outdoor. For me, it's just two separate things. If people come to me, they're like, "Oh, what level is this?" And I don't know, it's a blue one. They're like, "Yeah, but what level would it be outside?" I'm like, honestly, I try to separate them just more for my mind maybe. But often I do use the things I see outside, and I do try to recreate them inside in a just a bit more acceptable way. Because you know, I've made carnage for someone before, you know, the 7B. I've made certain boulders you can, but too much outdoor or too much one thing in the gym is never good. Like you could have one beautiful boulder, but if you set 20 versions of them, they become boring and people don't like it. You have to have diversity and variation. Same
Nora?
with your setters.
Nora, how much of your work is related to your outdoor climbing? Do you think they are connected, or are they separate for you?
I think it's they're connected in a sense that I get a lot of my motivation from being outdoors, but like climbing indoors and outdoors is a totally different thing for me. Like I think it's funny that you said that you sometimes like build stuff from outdoor. You try to like build it in the gym. Like I've never done that before. And for me, it's like what I enjoy also is that indoors you can set stuff that you would never find outdoors, or that you would probably not do because it's like you would fly like way off the crash pads. And for me, it's like the more time I spend climbing on plastic indoors, the more I want to go climb outside. But also spend a month somewhere, I'm like, okay, I really want to get back on plastic and like set my own problems. And people think I'm crazy, like, why are you craving plastic? Like, we're here, like at the rock. And I was like, yeah, but I miss setting. Like, it's really, it's crazy sometimes.
The creativity of it, I guess, like that it's your expression and not what is given.
Yeah, totally.
Let's do another Instagram one, please.
I had a. Did you have a question, Nora? I had one.
Yeah, like heading a bit towards diversity in setting, which I think is a really important topic for both of us. Yeah, why is it important to have?
Oh, we lost you a little bit. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so the question would be why it is important to have diversity in a setting team of a commercial gym or also in competition climbing.
I think the more diversity in climbing, the more diverse the routes, just like any other route setting team. And I think men and women setting together actually is a really nice collaboration. And I think there's always better quality when there's men and women setting together. Like Jan and I are the opposites. He's like big guy, I'm like small girl, and we're such a good complement to each other because we really get to see. I see a lot of athletic empathy with him when I'm watching him climb. I'm like, oh, okay. I can learn a lot from his size, how he moves and what he finds difficult, and he can learn a lot from me, how I'm climbing and what I use to get around things. Like he knows that there's like 8 T-nuts between my span, so he knows, oh, when I'm setting this for these smaller people, then I have to do this. And I know so I think it's a shame when you just have an all male team that they miss out on this and they just assume or try to make non-objective visions, maybe.
Would you say that men and women set differently?
We talked about that earlier.
Both. Yes and no.
Yeah, that's a really tough question. Like, I would not dare to put gender on it.
We said size.
Exactly.
Size.
Because I'm wondering about in general how easy it is for women and in general people who are different genders, marginalized genders, to be in the industry in the first place, like starting. So I think there are two sides to the diversity issue. One is on the industry side, as in how it is for you guys to work, how it is for marginalized people to work, to get work, what the atmosphere is. And then the other side is how it affects the public and how it affects what the public gets out of route setting. So maybe let's start with your experiences within climbing route setting. Would you say that your experiences were affected by the fact that you were female?
Oh, did we get mistreated because we're female, maybe? Or...
Not necessarily mistreated, like, you know, I don't want to put like a bias on it, or but treated differently. And I think the fact that for me personally, the idea of being treated differently on account of one's gender is always going to be mistreatment, but yeah. I guess it depends on how you look at it.
I think we for sure have
definitely
good and bad. I've been lucky, like I've had bad experiences where people have said like comments, like I remember one that really stuck out to me once. I was sitting in a comp and one guy who was like an average setter who just wasn't really even setting with me, he was like, oh, she needs a lot of help putting these big volumes up, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm 53 kilos. This volume is like half my weight. Of course I need help. I mean, you should ask for help. And then I decided, you know, I can either submit to that and just try to force and do all this heavy work by myself and injure myself, or I can just be like, no, it's not because I'm a girl, it's because I'm small and I'm working and you ask for help, just like a laborer does. They ask their workmate to help them carry something. It's logic. It's not because I'm a girl I need help. So I deal with these things, little comments like, oh, I had someone here even in the gym like, oh, you set these boulders, like the easy ones? Or I'm like, seriously, come on.
Right, so I guess
they
there is
haven't seen me climb, obviously.
a different expectation for women. Sorry, I'm just turning around all the time because my cat is making the weirdest noises and I'm worrying about her. Nora,
I didn't hear any of those noises.
okay. This probably is just me hearing her. Nora, any experiences on your side like that?
Totally. And frequently. And I feel like it takes a long time. Like change is coming, but really slowly. But in route setting, I feel like I can never just be a route setter. I'm always a female route setter.
Yeah.
And this goes from getting invited by people telling you like, hey, we have like this comp coming up and we need a female route setter for like completing our team. I'm like, well, yes, I am female, but it would have been nice to be invited for like my work as well. And then I feel like what I personally make out of this is most of the times that I go there, especially when it's a team that like I don't know yet or like a new gym, I feel like I have to prove myself or that I like deserve the spot in the team. So I like work extra hard. I also like already injured myself putting a volume up that was like way too heavy. And that are only comments, but I've also experienced that a chief setter of elite climbing gym in Germany didn't let me use the lift as the only female setter, and I already knew how to work on a lift, and I told him like several times, but he wouldn't let me use it by myself. And these are like, I mean, at that it's a really big gap like between having sexistic comments and like physically like being
barring somebody from doing something.
He's not chief setter there anymore, and I sat there again. By the way, I did not just eat it and leave, but like I tried to always like find the discussion about it. Like that's one of the reasons why I am working as a freelancer as well, that I like told myself after that I don't want to be around that behavior anymore. Like I don't want to endure something. And I always ask the people to talk about this and look for a discussion and come to an agreement, or I don't sit there anymore. Because I want to feel good in what I'm doing. And I don't need that. Like that's one of the positive, well, let's say side effects, that I'm one of the only women who's freelancing in Germany that I have a lot of requests.
Okay.
So I can pretty much choose like if something is not right, if something doesn't feel right, I go on to the next gym. Like,
so would you say
so
that so good, like but... because maybe there is like, well, definitely there is this like gender gap in the industry, but would you say that there is a possibility at the moment for people to use it to their advantage as a way to get into the industry? So like if women want to be route setters, would you say that is a good moment to still get into the industry before it's like saturated, because it actually like needs more females?
Definitely. Yeah. And that's why I don't know if like all the listeners heard about it, but I'm also working for the Route Setting Symposium in Germany, which is a collective organizing events for Finnish route setters. So we actually like, that's our goal for like the whole event, and everything we do is to have more diversity in route setting. And I think it's a really good, like right now I think is the perfect time, because gym owners also know that diversity is needed and asked for by
we lost you again a
I
little
think
bit.
now is I'm definitely sorry.
My internet all right. It happens. Nat, how would you say that diversity within route setting teams affects the experience of people who climb in a gym? What do they get out of it if there is a diverse setting team?
Oh, for sure. I see the diversity that I bring in the team. So I see every day, I see like hundreds of people climbing our boulders, and I can see they enjoy the touches that I give, and the subtleties that I give a bit more than our more powerful setters. So I definitely know that it's a good influence for sure, but it's not because I'm a girl. I think it's just because of my style that I set in. So I think it's definitely a plus to have a diverse team. Like, for sure, imagine you have just 3 of the same setters. Like, how boring is that gym gonna be?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what we are trying to create here in Black Box. We have like an intern kind of setter now who's a super tall guy, and he brings this diversity, like total different style to us. And then you have Jan, who's just a total beast all-rounder. Then you have me, like tiny. And then we have our other setters who are super powerful, and another technical one who's more outdoors. And this is just such a great setting.
Mix. And when you do comps, I noticed that a lot of the comps that you do are open and there is no gender divide. And I think that's super nice. Especially today, I spoke to a female climber who's actually a trans person, and she said that she struggles with competitions because like the gender categories are kind of, neither of the categories makes sense to her.
Yeah, it's like A or B.
Yeah, and so would you say that more diversity in route setting also would equal actually taking down this divide of female male?
Like, it's just an example of it. I try to set completely unisex. I don't think of like a man or a woman when I set, even for comps, when I set for like guys who climb 8 Cs for breakfast. I can't climb as hard as them at all, but I can set something challenging for them. And it's not because I'm thinking, oh, I must set boulder for a big, strong guy. No, I just try to set, I try to create something that's challenging for tall, small, big, strong, weak, and something great comes out of it. So I think already sometimes the mindset, if you're just setting for, oh, I need to set for a certain group, then you lose a bit of creativity. So with these open comps, it's like, oh, this one all the guys will crush and this one the girls won't do. I find that so close-minded. Like, I really, really try to set that every boulder is doable for all heights. So I don't necessarily say genders, but body types. I try to. Maybe it's sometimes harder when you're taller. Sometimes I set reachy stuff and people complain it's morpho. I'm like super small.
I remember you said like the super, super hard block at the competition I did at your gym. And I was like, it had like this move like this. And I was like, nobody short can do it. That's impossible. And then you came over and it was like, okay. It's like, right. So it's not about size. It's about power.
Yeah, it helps to have a big ape span though.
Yeah, and a little bit of muscle in the shoulder. Yeah. But that was just insane because like everybody was like, oh, this is such a guy's boulder, nobody will do it. And then like there were just like super strong guys trying it, and then you just came over and just did it casually and it was like, yeah, this is how it's done. And everybody was like, okay. Yeah. Nora, how would you say you see the sort of gender bias? Because to me this gender issue is almost like a bias that we always refer just to male and female and we divide everything in two. How would you say that affects route setting, and what is your approach in route setting around that?
I would love to get rid of the binary of like, especially competitions, to see like men's and women's boulders as like, just like last week I had this situation where I was setting in a commercial gym and set a boulder that was like really technical, crimpy, put your feet up high. And like the guys I was setting with, like all taller and physically way stronger than I was, like none of them were able to climb this boulder. And I did, well, it's all right, leave it in. It's a ladies boulder. And I was like, dude, really? Do we need to talk about this now? And we did talk about it. But that's something that like I don't want to hear, and I don't want anybody to think. It's like, I mean, then a 2-meter tall lady comes up with like the biggest fingers who can't hold the crimson. And it's like who the hell said this is a ladies boulder? Like it has nothing to do with gender. Like I agree that, like, for example, in competitions, it would be awesome to just divide by body sizes, because like some jumps or dynamic moves are just like way harder or impossible when you're a person my size. So why not like draw a line there somewhere? Say, let's, I don't know, 170, or like people.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we're having
can come together, and then like I've heard. I keep breaking up, don't I? Damn it. No, I heard like a lot of people also being a bit jealous that I can like span all the way and like have this feeling of like spanning my shoulders and climb with like open shoulders, because like a tall guy is never going to be able to do that in a gym, because it's like, in the best case, it's set for like all the sizes. But like just dividing in competitions by body size, you can have like the same experience for different types of bodies.
And I think there is also, sorry, Nat, I'll just hand it over to you in 1 second, but I just wanted to say that there is this idea that certain gender climbs like, or would do like less well in competition if the genders were mixed. But I think in a lot of sports, and climbing as well, the way the sports are played, the way the game is set up, is to favor males. So if the game isn't set up in that way, then everybody has the same chances regardless of their gender. So yeah, because like, as you say, like, of course there just might be somebody coming over and saying like, oh, all of those like non-cis men and females, they're not going to do well on these boulders because they're not strong enough. But then if you have variety, as you said, like you do something that requires different skill sets, then suddenly like the challenges much more equal for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely can be done. Like, so I could definitely set boulders that it's not required to be this like typical gym rat guy that hangs around every day here. But then people would complain. They would probably, and that's also not fair to set just not for them. But if you put a lot of energy into your setting, you can definitely make it completely gender neutral, so, and size neutral. So actually, funnily enough, we're having this competition in a month, and I wanted to not do the male and female category. At first I just wanted to do unisex, like completely no category, and then I decided a little bit, there is a difference with size, like for sure. And I wanted to put it under 1.75 m and then plus 1.76 m. So then you have these people, let's say the smaller people competing with their category, and then the taller people. So it's all mixed sexes. So then we have to then, to me, this is the most fair. And then we had some debate. Yeah, but it's not fair because it's also weight ratio. So like you could have like an 80 kilo, 175 person. So that's kind of, okay, where do you draw the line? So I think the perfect is the height a little bit.
Because like gender is as arbitrary as like the height. Like people say like, oh, you can't just draw the line between 175, but why can you draw the line between an artificial gender divide?
Exactly. And I find it more fair, more challenging to compete against people in a certain height range. So I would love to compete against all sexes under 175.
Yeah. But so what's going to happen with the comp in the end?
So, and not everyone here is so minded in our team. Like Jan, he was really for it, and he's like 185, so you know, he's like, yeah, but I don't know, people will maybe not like it, maybe some women will be like too afraid because then they're not gonna win against some guys. Because I'm like, yeah, but if we set really good boulders, then we can set a variation for all body styles and strengths and weaknesses. Like, we're not gonna just set like all overhand power boulders and dynos. I mean, there's something for everyone. And as a climber, you have to also be diverse in your style to win a competition. So for me, I have to be better in coordination. I have to be better in all this new silly comp stuff. And if there's a comp with these things in and I don't do well, it's because of me. It's not because I'm small or because I'm a girl. I'm just suck at it. Yeah. So it's on you if you're not diverse enough in your climbing style to enter these competitions. So yeah, maybe we'll lose some people, but then
you're gonna try it. Would you say that to be a professional route setter, you need to have a thick skin? Because Nora, you say that you often have those difficult conversations. Nat, you're having now this conversation about the competitions. So yeah, would you say that there is a lot of situations whereby you feel like, okay, I need to go into this battle again to deal with this issue?
Oh, I'm a very outspoken person. I'm not really afraid to be confronting, which is sometimes a bad personality trait, but sometimes it helps me a lot. And I think because I have a bit of a mouth on me, it helped me deal with these things. I take it with a pinch of salt. Of course, sometimes it affects me and made me question some things, but yeah, maybe some people will come to dislike you because you give an opinion, but I am where I am now because of that, I think. Yeah. I think if I was soft and submissive, I would never be a route setter.
Nora?
Yeah, same here. But I think you have to be tough somehow, like in a certain sense, to be able to make it in that job, because it is definitely are comments, and yeah, you have to be tough enough to open a discussion and say, like, here, I don't feel good about this, let's change it or leave it.
And would you say the responses are usually good when you start a discussion and you challenge people and you make them rethink their attitude? Would you say that they come to change their mind?
Some, not all of them. Like, I sometimes when I like open a discussion about it, you like see their faces fall out of place, and like especially men. There are a lot of people who don't want to talk about sexism in a workplace because they don't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't affect them, so why would they deal with it?
Yeah, and just like last week, I had a situation where to the Box Mantle, which was a smaller box.
Sorry,
and I was able to do
again
it
because we didn't hear you?
Yeah, sorry.
You had a situation.
Yeah, last week where I was testing a boulder, doing like a tiny Box Mantle, pretty hard. I was able to do it first go, and then one of my male colleagues who was sitting down there on the mat was like, yeah, and maybe now we need somebody with a normal sized body to try it. And I was like,
you're not normal.
Yeah, because my body is not normal. Of course. And I was like, dude, we really need to talk about this. So it was not a nice lunch we had. But yeah, and I think that's wording as well. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm 162. Obviously, somebody taller should also test his move, see if it's.
Yeah, but there's nothing not normal about being a 162 climber. That should not be seen as abnormal.
No.
Yeah. All right. Let us know if there are any Instagram questions that you would like to tackle still before we head over to live questions.
I just want to say something too. I think also I have to say that, I don't know about Nora, but I'm also sometimes guilty of being a bit with my feedback. Like, even today, we were setting with a team and I was like, oh, this is just some powerful, boring man boulder. but actually that's quite offensive what I said, right? And Jan is always like, Nat, you have to be sometimes a little bit less emotional, give feedback in that moment. And I totally agree with him, but he doesn't understand, like, there's a lot of, we're used to this, like, this coming at us all the time. We all have been the minority for quite a while. So sometimes this outlet comes out, and I am also guilty of being a bit sexist to other guys too. Like, oh yeah, you just set your manpower boulder, but actually it's wrong of me too. So
yeah, I mean, we're all like, we cannot escape ourselves being a part of a sexist system. And I like, my thing, which I do in outdoor climbing, is, I don't know if that's sexism or sizeism, but I think it's sexism because after all, it's mostly male that I see who are this tall. And I'm just like, you can only do this because you're a tall guy.
I mean, I think that, I just try not to say it.
yeah, but yeah, you were totally like, we need to all question constantly these like biases that we have. It's just that usually our biases are not hurting people on the same level that minorities are being put down because of those biases.
I now try to just say, oh, it's a power ladder, and I don't try to say. So I'm still working on some stuff too, but
yeah, especially that there are people of various genders who definitely have loads of power. So,
but I just want to say, like, I've really been lucky with the people I set with. I feel like I get a lot of support in the national setting, especially. I feel like this two or three really open-minded male setters who I really feel they gave me a lot of confidence and made me feel okay with what I do. And they're also very diverse in their setting. And I think this really helps, like, because there's been times in the past it was a lot worse, and there was very closed-minded men set men boulders and women set women's. And this was horrible and hard, and I nearly quit at those points. But now I feel like men are kind of seeing things a bit open-mindedness in this way now, and I don't feel like always just the girl in the team. I try to just be a route setter like they are,
for
just
sure,
a smaller one.
Nora, have you got any good Instagram questions that you would like to answer before we head to the Q&A? Anything there?
Is there any questions from the Q&A?
Not yet. If anybody has any questions to ask for Nat and Nora, I think we are approaching the time.
Yeah. I have a question to Nora, actually.
Go on.
Put you on the spot. How, like, I have this question a lot, and I work with it a lot because route setting is our job at times. Like, we're forced to set, right? It's like Monday, you come there, you have to set. How do you deal with it when you're not in the mood, let's say, or you're not creative, or you're tired, Like, I often come back from weekends and fun, and I'm destroyed, and I'm like, how the hell am I setting? So I try to work on this on-site setting, but sometimes it's just not there in my head and nothing works. So I have advice on this that I give myself, but I'm wondering from you, advice to everyone else, maybe some tips that I don't know.
It's mostly mind work. Like, I mean, my like physical fitness is not going to change in a moment, but my mind can get way better. And I just tell myself that I don't have to do it. It's like, I'm here because I want to be here, and I'm doing this job because I want to do this job. I don't have to do it. And it's like, if I don't want to set, I just tell the people I'm not going to set today. Bye. And then I'm probably not going to get invited again, but reminding myself that I do this because I want to do it, and because it's an amazing job. And then I'm like, this is not too bad. I could be sitting at like whatever. Reminding myself that and that I love my job.
I think because it's so creative, we have to, like, you can't just create something on the spot. Like a musician, an artist, a book writer. So, you have to have some kind of creative flow for it to flow out. And this is what I found especially hard in competitions, because you really are like you can't just come back another day. You're like there, and it has a time schedule, and you have to deliver. This is sometimes, often, I'm just really not in the mood. I'm like, I can't do it. And then I have to really dig deep into this mindset. And this is a question I often get asked from people is, how do you set when you're not in the mood? So
how do you set when you're not in the mood? Giving it back.
Well, luckily when I'm commercial setting, I can choose. I can be like, okay, I'm just gonna set something really basic, or I'm just gonna organize the holds, and then I get inspired just by the holds, and I choose holds which inspire me, and then I'm like, okay, I can figure something out with this, and then I just let the holds, and I don't think, and it just comes out. But if I have the choice, if it's a really bad day, I just say it's not for today. I'm just gonna work on something else, make a route setting plan or something. But when it comes down to the grind, like in a competition setting and you're not in the mood, I still struggle with it, but I just try to force moves, and that's really my least favorite thing. It's like, okay, I need to make this like double thing, and then it just becomes mechanic. And actually, I don't enjoy mechanical setting, where you just have to force something.
So because we are approaching 1 hour mark, I was wondering to wrap it up with both of you answering 2 questions that I think might be questions that are quite interesting. First one is the sort of obvious question that I think everybody asks themselves when they are not a route setter, but they might consider it, especially for women, but in general for everybody. How do you take the first step? So that's the first question. How do you take the first step into route setting? And second question, as a gym user, as a participant, what can you do? How do you start a conversation with a gym, with the owners, with the staff to say like, hey, I think your route setting maybe should be more diverse? Is there something that you could, so that's like two completely separate questions, and I don't know if you want to do both the first one and then the second one, or what order?
Let's both do the first one.
Nora?
To start route setting, I think now a lot of gyms are looking for women, especially, or for like a more diverse route setting team. So it's a good time to just like go to a gym and ask if you can try.
How strong do you need to be? Do you need to be super, super strong?
It depends on what you want to do. If like your goal is to set national competitions, then you have to be able to like test boulders for a national competition. But if you only want to be like part of a route setting team, you don't necessarily have to climb like a certain grade, but you have to set a certain grade.
You have to have like, somewhat.
Yeah, like I don't climb all the boulders I set. It's like sometimes I only do single moves. Sometimes I don't even do single. I have to be capable of seeing that. And like what's most important is like a certain level of experience, like a certain like couple of years that you've been climbing and understand movement and like the physics of our bodies and what happens when you lean this way or this way. So yeah, you have to know what this movement is about. Even though you might not be able to physically do it, you have to understand it.
Okay. Nat, what would you add?
What helps to get there, or like how I started route setting as well, was in Colombia. All the climbing gyms are like packed with holes. Like you don't really have routes, but you define boulders every day. You just go into the gym, like they don't set at all, but you define your own boulders. That I started to create by just just like a huge spray wall.
Yeah.
And yeah, that definitely
that helps creativity, because when I'm on a spray wall, I don't know what to do. Completely overwhelmed. Nora, because we're losing you a little bit, I will pop that question over to Nat.
Yeah, so I think a little bit experience in climbing is a must, because you need to have somewhat a backup of climbing moves and movements. Otherwise, you will just build ladders, I think. But I don't think there's a particular level. But like, because I know some people who climb 10 years and they only climb maybe 6B. So, but their experience is pretty good. Like they have a lot of movements in their itinerary. So I would say just approach I would just say there's no, you just begin in your comfort zone, which is setting things that you can comfortably set. And then I think when you get more experience, then you can set how, like, doing single moves. And
how difficult would you say it is to wrap your head around the tool stuff? Because I know a lot of people are intimidated by tools, but tools for route setting are actually, it's not rocket
That's why
science.
there should be a course, though. Like anything, and this is what we want to establish here, is that you get taught that, and you don't need to be ashamed, because there's many people.
Yeah, many people might not be used to a drill.
Oh, they have two left hands. It's like, but they feel ashamed to ask what to do, but they shouldn't, because it's something you need to learn, and it's a skill, and you can easily learn. So the first thing I do is I teach the people like the bolt sizes that need to put in, how to fix a T-knot, how to not over, the little basics is the first thing I would teach the new setters, for sure. Yeah.
And in terms of the other side, Nora, maybe we can try, if your internet connection is going to let us. Would you say that gyms are open to the public having that, like, to make that approach of saying, like, oh, like, this could be better? Like, is there space for the public to ask for more diversity? Maybe that's the question.
It depends on where, but I think nowadays most of the gym owners kind of got it already, that public is asking for it, that the customers want more diversity, as our society is diverse and the climbers are getting more and more diverse. We need to like present them routes and boulders that are set by a diverse team. And totally, like, let's all head to like one responsible and tell them diversity.
I think there is a gap between customer feedback and to the gym. I think most people say it a little bit behind the back to friends, and then they hear from someone, oh, this gym is all really powerful, this gym is really boring, or whatever. So I think there should be a more, for me, it's really important. Like, I want to tell anyone who ever knows me, climbs in my gym, I love it if people give good or bad feedback, because they're the reason that we are here. So without their feedback, without them, there's nothing. So they're more important than my ego. So what if I like to set certain style, it doesn't matter what I like, it's what I need to give to my public. And like we do it here, we have just an app, and people can put a thumbs up or down on certain boulders, and they can give a grade plus or minus. So we know, oh, we're setting too hard, too easy. People like this, people don't like this. And this helps a lot because it's an easy way to give feedback. So it's a way they don't need to feel ashamed. Like, even I find it hard to give feedback to friends who are route setters or friends who have gyms. Sometimes I don't like their gyms or their setting, and I find it hard to give feedback. So
especially if you've got like a personal relationship, I guess, with that person, it becomes even harder.
So here I try to, what I do, and I think all gym owners should do, and all route setters, you should be in with the people. You should get to know your climbers. You should be climbing with the people, and you can learn if you look in the gym, all the sizes of people and all the different styles, you should just see that and immediately know your answer. You see what routes are avoided, you see what's popular, you see what's talked about, what's shared, what's tagged. So if gym owners aren't seeing this, then they're looking the wrong way. They're not in it for the same reasons I think they should be in it. So.
All right. Thank you very much. I think we probably should be wrapping it up, unless you've got something that comes to your mind that you would like to add.
Actually, as we were talking about at the very beginning, like, what is a route setter to a gym?
Yeah.
I find it really important to also mention it the other way around, not only like the value that the setters are for the gym, but also I think it's really important for the route setters to remember that they are doing a service job, that they're serving the gym and the customers. So they're not like, I think it's really easy to like lose it to your own ego and set boulders for yourself that like challenge yourself, and to like not lose that focus on whom you're setting for, and that this is a service for the people who come to the gym.
That's also something I think that people who want to get into route setting should really consider, because as you said earlier, there is a lot of like this glorification of route setting, and sometimes people might think like, oh, it's just this super cool way to just be around the gym, and I'm just gonna be, you know, the coolest climber in the gym if I'm a route setter. But if you're this route setter, then you're probably not a good route setter, because I think all gym goers know route setters like that, who are just like super self-important, and then I wouldn't say like they might be super strong and stuff, but their routes aren't always the most popular routes in the gym. So
Yeah,
it's definitely like a people's job.
I think I must admit, like when we get a lot of requests for people to begin route setting here, still I haven't had any females really request, which I find a bit alarming, that girls that I am around or in Belgium, I don't have the interest from them. And maybe I should try to promote it. Maybe I'm not promoting it enough. But I always find it weird that it's only guys asking to set routes, but we have a lot of girls.
But I never came.
Yeah, well, you could come.
I will. Wait, let me just get the festival out of the way.
But at the same time, I must admit, Jan and I are really picky. Like we say no a lot. Like it took us ages to like we accept to take a new person, which we have, and we're happy and still learning a lot. But he's perfect ego, no ego, blah. But like we have random people who just ask, and we're like, sorry, it takes a lot of our time to teach someone. So that's why I really want this commercial setting course to come alive, because then we can just be like, take this course, you will learn everything, and then you can begin with at least a foundation to start with. So, but I do want to say, like, you should always ask. Like, a person can always say no. And I think I should also give people more of a chance. And when people ask, I should say, okay, come one time, let's see how it goes. And somehow find a way to promote it to women, that they can come and ask me to have a go.
Yeah. And that you don't have to like climb 8B to be a setter in a commercial gym. Like I think that's like a lot of women underestimate themselves and so like, oh, but I'm not strong enough. I'm not sure if I can do this job. Like, well, you'll never be able to know until you ask.
I never ask people's level when they ask to set. That actually doesn't come to my mind. Oh, what level do you climb? Actually,
that's really interesting.
Because I think they can just sit in their comfort zone. So and so people shouldn't be afraid of the level.
Especially as you say that the main sort of clientele of a climbing gym is below 6B. It's like complete beginner to 6B. So if you want to, like, presumably if you want to get into the profession, you probably already climb 6B, so you should be okay.
And as well, they already have the empathy for their bodies, like they know what, if just say a climber climbs 6A, they know what it feels like. They don't have this as much strength as a 6B, 6C climber. This is a skill that you really have to dig deep to put yourself in their shoes. So it's harder for me to feel what a 5C climber feels, because I have power, but I try to be in tune with this. But it's not easy for everyone to be in tune with this. So actually, I think it's a good thing to have someone who's not super strong, because they will find their way up in other ways, or we can see what they're capable of. So if anything, I think it's even a bonus to have lower level setters.
That's super interesting.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you ever so much. It was super nice to have you guys. And I look forward to seeing you both in Font very shortly.
Yes.
That's going to be awesome. And yeah, have a very, very good evening. And I think that's it.
I'll set you a project here. Just tell me the climb. I'll go check it out and I'll set it here in Black Books for you.
Oh my God. You can set me half of Fontainebleau and then coach me through it.
Are you, Nat, are you coming to the Women's Bouldering Festival?
I have to work that weekend. It's my working weekend.
Oh, no.
I maybe can come on the Monday or the Friday, but
Come on the Monday and do the
maybe I can come on the Monday.
Anti-erosion workshop.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
No, it is fun.
You know it's good. All right.
I missed out. I will.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Nora. Bye-bye.
Bye.